we're okay for time. Yes, good, okay, yes.
Hi, T.S. Anil, CEO of Monzo. As you know, we're a bank that serves 7.5 million retail customers and 250,000 small businesses here in the UK. My question is related to how the government can support businesses like us that have global ambitions beyond the UK shores. And there's obviously a broad range of things that are possible with trade partnerships and so on. But that list should include tactical things like allowing us to passport our licenses from the UK to other jurisdictions, which we cannot do today. Our UK license is really only for the UK today. So what's the range of things that you're thinking about to create the next generation of global businesses that are birthed here?
Yeah, thanks, T.S., and thanks for everything that you do to support small businesses and customers. Now, this talks about what I talked about in my opening remarks about being open to trade, right, and forging those relationships with other countries. Because unlike lots of countries, we're very fortunate that we have a very global connected economy. Right, trade is a bigger part of our GDP than it is for many countries, and many of our companies are instinctively very outward-looking because what we do is really good, and naturally you should, and we want you to sell it around the world. So that's why us having good dialogue and relationships around the world is important. So with financial services, we're in the midst of negotiating an MOU with Switzerland, for example, right, on financial services. That represents one of the most ambitious financial services partnerships that anyone's ever tried to do, and actually we will get that done, and that will open up markets and opportunity for many of you in the room. I talked about CPTPP. We've got more services in our agreement with Japan. We talked about India already. But it's all those types of things. It's about us working around the world, being outward-looking, negotiating those agreements, getting those mutual recognition, not just in financial services, but in services more generally. Recognition of qualifications. It sounds incredibly simple, but actually if a country recognizes a professional license in architecture or something like that, it means all our amazing people here in professional services can then do what they do around the world. And that's what we're working at. So part of our trade thing is you don't have to necessarily always do the big trade deal, right? Those are complicated and take time. But where we can find individual sectors, individual licenses or qualifications that we can get mutual recognition for, that's a smart and sensible thing to do. Often doesn't take as long, but can drive growth and open up opportunities. So it's a focus of our trade policy is to do lots of that. Doesn't always get the attention, but that is practical and effective alongside also trying to do the big, more complex trade deals. All right, next. Yes, we'll try and go somewhere at the back. I can't quite see, but we'll try and be equitable. Is there someone over there?
Thank you, Prime Minister, and very good morning to you. My name is Vibhor Gupta. I'm the founder of Pangea Data. We were founded in London, but we quickly grow in the US, and we now have an outpost in South San Francisco. My question is, how can you help early businesses like ours scale up in other markets and also be competitive, or at least be able to compete? Coming from the UK, sometimes when you're in a big country like America, it is very hard to stand out, and you try your best. Does the government have a strategy to help us do that? And if so, how?
How?
Thank you.
Yes, we do. It's called GREAT. It's called the GREAT campaign. And we have a fantastic team of people from business who serve on our council. And that campaign, that organisation, funded by government, their job is to promote UK and UK businesses around the world. And they do it in a really interesting and attractive way. We're keen to do more of it. So what I do when you go back, just go Google it, have a look at it, and hopefully it can help and support you. It's embedded with our embassies around the world, where we're doing a much better job than we used to of joining up the diplomatic and the corporate side. We just launched, to give you an example of it, actually we just launched a campaign in the West, it's very specifically on the West Coast, right, in Silicon Valley, just talking about our companies, what they were doing. Some of our ministers were out there the other week, and it was a huge success, right? And there's, what's called Unicorn, what's it called? Yeah, Unicorn Kingdom, right? So there's a whole campaign around it. We're in the process of doing it. And actually the feedback, I've had all these messages from people, the feedback from people out there who have all started to notice all these things and are feeding back to us. And we've tried doing it in a slightly more funky way this time, and it definitely seems to be working. And we're going to do more of that. So look, plug into that. There's lots of private sector people who are involved in it, so there's probably someone you know who you can also talk to as well as us. But that's it. It's a great campaign. We've reinvigorated it. We're funding it. And it's going from strength to strength to promote UK and UK businesses around the world. But have a look at that, and I think it will really help. Right, I know we're running out of time, so we'll take the last couple. Right, yes.
Morning, Prime Minister. Helena Morrissey. I chair a number of companies in the finance sector, and I've also done a lot of work on diversity and inclusion. You mentioned earlier, quite rightly, of course, the importance of having an entrepreneurial mindset throughout the country to help Britain grow, but also I think we need all the talent. We need everyone to feel they'll be respected and included if they join industry. It's a bit of the elephant in the room, but we're meeting as horrible allegations swirl around the CPI. I'm not expecting you to comment on that, but I am personally worried that this might put women off joining industry. And I wondered if you're concerned about that, and if so, if the government's doing anything about it, or might help in the future as the dust settles on this whole horrible scandal. Thank you.
Look, Helena, thank you for everything that you've done in this space, because it's really important, right? I have 2 young girls, I have 2 daughters. I want to make sure that they grow up in an economy and a society where every opportunity is available for them. And that's what we all want to do, right? And that's why when it came particularly to entrepreneurship, which you mentioned, we asked Alison Rose, who will be known to many of you in this room, a few years ago to do a review into female entrepreneurship. Alison's report is superb. Actually, it's really worth reading. It brings to light, shines a light on some of the barriers that were there, and lots of recommendations for us about what we can do to try and address some of those things, which we are now doing. And actually, of course we're not there yet. Of course we're not. But we're making progress. So if you look at the number of companies started by women in the last year, 2022, that we have data for, it's 4 times, I think actually 2 or 3 times more than it was a couple of years before. So it's heading in the right direction, and that's because there's a range of things we're doing. I was talking about it again this morning, actually, on the LinkedIn Live, because someone asked a very similar question. And, I asked her, she was a female entrepreneur, I asked her, what does she think the barriers are? One of them was finance, and whether it's harder for female entrepreneurs to raise capital for their businesses. That's something that Alison had spoken to us about. One of the reasons that we extended SEIS, our tax relief scheme for investing in very early stage businesses, to 3 years, because that would disproportionately benefit female founders. But also she talked about networks and mentorship as being something that was really important. And so we're looking at that, right? It's not an easy thing for the government to try and fix, but I think that's something all of us working together, if we're a little bit more alive to what some of the barriers are, how can we work together to put in place those networks and that mentorship to support our female leaders to continue to grow and develop and build their businesses? Because like I share the ambition that you have, right? We want to make sure that no matter your background, no matter whether you're a woman or a man, whether you're from a different part of the country, whatever your socioeconomic background is, that we want to spread opportunity around, right? There's so much talent in our country, and we're missing out if we're not giving everyone an opportunity to fulfill their potential. So that's what we're going to try and do, and pleasure to work with you on it and hear all your ideas about how we can deliver that together, because I think that's something that we owe to our kids and our grandkids, to make sure that they grow up in a society where that's possible and they can do everything they want to do regardless of who they are. So I know that you share that ambition with me, and I know that together we can deliver it. Right, okay, I think we're almost out of time, so let's take last one. Yes, sir, here.
Thank you, Prime Minister. My name is Torben of LifeBit, and as a precision medicine software company that works with wonderful UK institutions like Genomics England and then exports that around the world, we're obviously delighted by you cutting red tape in things like procurement, but at the same time slightly concerned when it comes to the single market, which is one of our biggest trading partners. 80% of our revenue comes from abroad, and in the regulatory space, maintaining alignment when it comes to things like GDPR, etc., so that we and our technologies remain compatible with that very large market, which is right across the channel. It's very important. So what is your view on that, kind of like cutting red tape on the one side, but staying compatible to our single biggest addressable single market next door?
Yeah, I think we can do all of that, right? Like we have, as a result of the negotiations, I think the deepest comprehensive bilateral trade deal with the EU and the TCA that more than any other trade deal anywhere else provides very good access. But alongside that, in those growth industries, right, and you mentioned life sciences, that's one of our massive growth industries. One of the chancellors rightly highlighted 5 growth industries. And George Freeman is here as well, our science minister. Like, that's an obvious area where we can look at how we can make this the best place to do drug discovery in the world, right? We should be looking at the clinical trials directive. And in fact, all of you in the industry tell me we should be looking at it and reform it to make sure that it is easier and faster to do drug discovery here. You know, building on the advantages we already have, right? We have world-class research base in our universities, as well as all these great companies. But we also have data sets that don't exist anywhere in the world because of the NHS and elsewhere, the biobank, right? So I think, you know, I look at that and I just see that as massive opportunity for us. You know, and particularly in life sciences, because of the work that we're doing, and it's George's professional background, right? He knows it inside out, and you should talk to him afterwards, right? Because this is one of those areas when we saw during the pandemic, right? Look how the MHRA moved at pace; it was agile, that was beneficial to us. Look what we're developing here. You know, we've got fantastic companies like yours. I don't know if Gordon's here from Oxford Nanopore, and all these other things, right? Oh, there he is, right? Waving, perfect, right? Like we need to make sure that more of that happens here. We already have the biggest life sciences sector in Europe, right? And we need to just maintain that advantage. And that's about a regulatory regime that is pro-innovation. And that's what we're delivering. And that's great, not just because it's good for the economy, right? That will create lots of jobs, it will create lots of tax revenue. That's all marvelous and wonderful, right? I mean, just think what we're doing, right? Like, we're keeping people alive, right? That's what you do, right? And we can do that here. That means British people are going to be the first recipients of some of this new, novel, life-saving treatments. Look how mRNA is, you know, completely changing. Look how AI is changing drug discovery, right? So I look at that as just one of the most exciting opportunities ahead of us, and I think, God, isn't it amazing that, you know, here in the UK, we're literally already one of the best people at it. Yes, we need to make sure that we continue to have access to selling these things into Europe, which I think we will, right? Why would you not want to buy whatever we create here? But we want to make sure that we create it here in the first place. You know, you and everyone else in your industry is going to do that for us. It's going to be amazing to see what you do over the next 5, 10 years. And that is a good positive note to end on, because that story is one that is replicated in pretty much all of your businesses in all of our sectors. You know, we're really lucky with the talent that we've got in this country, which we've talked about. We're really lucky with the quality of our entrepreneurs and business people, because all of you are brilliant, right? And I hope that you feel that you've now got a government that is engaging with you, that is listening to you. That's what today is all about. We want your ideas. We want your feedback. Because if we can work together on this, I think the potential for this country is limitless, right? Not only can we create that growing economy, which is going to put jobs in every part of it, create the prosperity and the opportunity, you know, we can literally transform how we live for the better, right? That is the promise that is there ahead of us. And that's what we can deliver together. So thank you for being here today. Enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll see you soon.